Hello there, and thanks for checking out this video. It is a beautiful fall morning here in the great state of Idaho. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about a couple other great states, those being Tennessee and North Carolina, where I just got back from. We spent 6 days and 5 nights in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park over there, and it was beautiful. The fall colors are in full bloom right now. We covered 63.5 miles during our time there. The first 4 days we stayed on the east side of the national park. The ranger told us that was the less crowded area. And then for the last 2 days, we stayed more in the middle of the park. I'm gonna break our adventure down day by day for you guys, and I hope this video helps you out if you, especially if you plan on backpacking the backcountry. And also stay tuned towards the end, and I'll throw a couple tips your guys' way that I think is important when visiting the Great Smoky Mountains. So day one was our shortest day. We covered a little over 4 miles, mainly because we spent a lot of the time driving to the spot. We started at Pin Oak Gap Trailhead, where we followed Balsam Mountain Trail, which connected with Beach Gap Trail, which took us to our first camp spot, which was Laurel Gap Shelter. So right now with COVID, the park is allowing guests to set up camp at these shelters now, where they weren't allowed to before. So the few people that were at the shelter slept in tents, which left the entire shelter to myself. That's cool. Something gonna jump out. Nope. Sleeping quarters. So day 2 was our second biggest day. We covered a little over 16 miles that day. The morning started off very beautiful. We jumped right onto Mount Sterling Ridge Trail and followed all the way to Mount Sterling, where there is a fire lookout. Now most of the fire lookouts I've been to have been like little log cabins, but this one was an actual tower, which was very sketchy. I'm not gonna lie, every step I thought maybe one of the wooden boards would bust, especially when you get to the very top of the tower. The floor flexed in every time you stepped on it, and it was kind of scary, but the views were spectacular. So from there we headed to Long Bunk Trail, which took us to a cemetery in the middle of nowhere. We just stumbled upon it. Once we got to the intersection a little further down, we saw that it was called Hannah Cemetery. From Long Bunk Trail we hit Little Cataloochee Trail, which this is probably one of my favorite trails on the trip. We came across Hannah Cabin, which was very sketchy and scary. A little bit further down the road we come across a Baptist church, which was actually pretty well maintained and also had a cemetery outside of it. Once again, a little bit further down the road we came across Cook's Cabin, which was even scarier than Hannah's Cabin. It was a lot darker inside, but really fun to explore. And then right across from there, I'm gonna assume was Cook's Neighbor. We got a really late start that day, and exploring the cabins, we ended up having to hike at night, which after exploring some cemeteries and creepy cabins, was definitely got the heart racing, but we made it to camp number 39 where we set up at night. All right, we're about a quarter mile out from the fire lookout. As you can tell from my breathing, it has been a steady 8 to 10% incline the whole 2.5 miles. Well, I wouldn't say the whole, but at least 2 miles to get there. So gosh, this hot tower is just fucking sketchy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, this is scary. If we find any books with Latin letters, words, we're not gonna read it. All right, I'm gonna check upstairs. Hopefully this isn't where she was killed. Damn.
You want all the way up?
Hell no.
Hell no.
Go for it. Let me take a peek. Oh man, it's too dark. Alright, let's see if this place is unlocked. Check it out. Oh yeah. That's cool. You know, a rope. Right scanner. Fireplace. All dark in here. Ooh. A little bit scarier than Hannah's cabin. Thought I'd share my view with you guys that I have for the next couple miles. I'm just glad we're past all those cabins. That would have been scary as hell. So we started day 3 by filling up our waters with this nice little river that ran behind our camp. From there, we hit Pretty Hollow Gap Trail, which is where Camp 39 is located on. That took us to Cove Creek Road, where it was a gravel road. From here, there was a parking lot, so it was pretty packed. It's a pretty popular tourist area. The road actually takes you to these open meadows where you get to see beautiful fall color views. And in the meadows, it's actually a grazing place for elk. We did not see any elk that day. My guess is because of the giant crowds. So from Cove Creek Road, I jumped onto Big Eck Ridge Trail. Followed that for a little bit, where I ran into a hunting dog, which scared the crap out of me. I turned the corner, there he was. He ended up actually hanging out with me all the way until I got to the next camp spot. From Big Eck Ridge Trail, I jumped on Caldwell Trail, which took me to Rough Fork Trail, and eventually to camp number 40. So day 4, we woke up to a pretty big rainstorm. It didn't stop till 8 in the morning. Once it started to die down, we hurried, packed up camp, and hit the trails. We basically just backtracked, got on Rough Fork Trail, onto Big Eck Ridge Trail, and then we jumped on Palmer Creek Trail, which is a little bit of shortcut from the day before. And then that took us back to Pin Oak Gap and our car. We drove to the nearest town, which was Townsend, Tennessee. It's a nice little town there. We decided to get a hotel that night and stay at Best Western, mainly to restock up on our food and dry our equipment off because our tents and stuff is just soaked. You can kind of see the house in there. Maybe hoping I catch something on camera. This is the Woody house. so day 5 was our biggest day. We covered a little over 19 miles that day. We drove to the trailhead, which was at the beginning of the Middle Prong Trail. There was a giant parking lot there, so it was packed. There's a couple of waterfalls, so it is a tourist attracted area, but once you get past a couple miles past the parking lot, it completely clears out and you have the trails to yourself. From Middle Prong Trail, following along it, we ran into like an old rustic car. It was cool to see. And then we checked out the Indian Flats Falls, which isn't clearly marked. Somebody put an arrow with sticks on the ground, which you could hardly see. Luckily somebody was leaving it and pointed it out to us, or else we would have just walked by it. Then we jumped on Lynn Camp Prong Trail, which is where our campsite is, camp number 28. We decided to set up camp, drop our equipment, and then finish the rest of the day with just a tiny little day pack, so we weren't carrying all that gear around. We jumped on Mary Ridge Trail from there, and then we jumped on the one that I've been wanting to do and was excited to do that day, was the Appalachian Trail, also known as the AT. We did 2.5 miles on the trail, which means we only have about, 1,998 more to go and cover it, but it was cool just to be that part of that section of that historical trail. From there we jumped on Green Beer Ridge Trail, then back on Lynn Camp Prong Trail and back to camp. Once again, we took our time, so we didn't get back to camp until dark, which was fine because I was dead exhausted and just wanted to get to sleep. The next morning, day 6, last day, we just woke up, backtracked back to the parking lot, and then had our drive back to Knoxville. And now I'm back in Idaho. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you plan on backpacking the backcountry there in the Great Smoky Mountains, I hope you get a little bit of an idea of what it's like with this video. And also I want to leave you guys with a couple tips that I wish I knew prior to this trip. One is a pretty obvious one. Plan your trip out, and then make sure you're purchasing your backcountry permits, which we had no idea we needed. It's my first national park backpacking experience. Luckily the ranger station was right there in the beginning. They helped us out, got us a trail set up and backpacking permits set up. Second, plan for the traffic. It was crazy traffic, bumper to bumper in the park. I think you're averaging maybe 10 miles an hour through the whole park. It took us 3 hours to go 30 miles, so make sure you plan for that. And then lastly, the views. If you want great views of all the mountains and the wonderful colors, your best bet is to stop along the road on one of the lookout points. That is where we got our best photos from, because during the hikes, the trees are so high that you never get any break to see any views while you're hiking in the Great Smoky Mountains. So just keep that in mind. Hope you guys enjoyed the video again, and remember, I'll catch you on the next Gren's adventure.